This episode is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Fiscally responsible, financial geniuses, monetary magicians. These are things people say about drivers who switch their car insurance to Progressive and save hundreds. Because Progressive offers discounts for paying in full, owning a home, and more. Plus, you can count on their great customer service to help you when you need it, so your dollar goes a long way. Visit Progressive.com to see if you could save on car insurance. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Potential savings will vary. Not available in all states or situations.
In a world where January is supposed to be boring, one staple of the holidays refuses to end. The great deals at Verizon. The joy just keeps on coming. Right now, you can save on 4 new phones and 4 lines. Critics agree it's the deal that keeps on giving. Come into Verizon and save on 4 new phones and 4 lines on unlimited welcome. Additional terms apply. See Verizon.com for details.
Flowers die in 3 days. Matching underwear from MeUndies? That's a gift that lasts. MeUndies creates matching prints for couples and friends. Same adorable designs and different cuts for each of you. All made from their signature ultramodal fabric that feels impossibly soft. With 30 million pairs sold and 90,000 5-star reviews, MeUndies matching prints are the perfect gift. Valentine's Day is February 14th, so don't wait. Get exclusive deals up to 50% off at MeUndies.com/ACAST. Code ACAST. That's MeUndies.com/ACAST. Code ACAST.
No matter how many times you save the world, it always manages to get back in jeopardy again. I mean, sometimes I just want it to stay saved, for a little bit. I feel like the maid. I just cleaned up this mess. Can we keep it clean for 10 minutes?
Yeah, you get to that point. Hello, guys, and welcome to another episode of Hollywood Gold. I'm your host, Daniela Taplin Lundberg, and I'm here with my right hand, Vanessa Mendel.
Hi.
Hi, how are you, Vanessa? You in the production office?
I'm not in the production office right now, but every day of the last 3 weeks I have been, so feels a little strange, but it's very exciting to be working on a movie and simultaneously talking about the making of other movies.
I know. It's been a moment since we've been in prep on a film, and it's really exciting and death-defying and stressful and all the things to get going on a movie that we're shooting in LA, which is like our favorite place to shoot.
The best place to shoot, and kind of a miracle that we're pulling it off, but I'm really happy we're doing it here. We're bringing some business back to this city.
We are, and we've assembled such a good crew, and we're assembling such a great cast, and so I'm excited about this, about Tumor. But let's get going on our new episode. This is the first animated feature we've ever done, and we're doing it on The Incredibles, which is like one of the all-time greats.
I'm so excited that we're talking about animation because I do think it is such a different process and feels like a completely different industry from the one that we work in. But it ultimately all is the same thing. So it's like fascinating to hear the process. And I'm so excited to hear John Walker talk about it.
Yes, so we're about to get underway with John Walker. Can't wait to hear from him, his whole process. It makes me never want to do an animated feature, but it's fascinating to hear. And I was just so impressed with how he came to it and how he managed this massive, massive film. So let's get going.
Let's do it.
This is the first animated feature we're doing on the pod. So you're going to have to give us a real education.
I'd be happy to do that.
Okay.
And thank you for having me. I love
I'm
your
so
podcast.
thrilled. You're so sweet. And I'm so happy we could do this in person. It's like a completely different experience when we're together. Okay. So we're going to start, and I want you to give me your first memory, one man's memory of The Incredibles and how it came to you or how you came to it. And start from the beginning.
Well, in order to talk about The Incredibles, we have to talk about another movie, which is The Iron Giant. Which
Okay.
I don't know if you know that movie.
Of course,
but
yes.
It's a great, hand-drawn animated film, and it was Brad Bird who wrote and directed The Incredibles. It was his first movie.
Okay.
It was my first movie.
As a producer?
As a producer. I was an associate producer. There was just one. I was the associate producer.
Okay.
But it was produced by Alison Abate, who's a wonderful producer who you should interview.
Okay, absolutely. Love to.
She's fantastic. And
Okay.
Also an executive. But anyway, That was at Warner Brothers. It was at the time when all the big studios were building out animation divisions. They didn't know how to do animation, really, feature animation.
Yes.
Only Disney really knew how to do that. But after The Lion King, you could practically hear the phones ring and go, "Give me one of them Lion Kings," you know? And so they all, Fox started one, Warner started one, and I sort of got sucked into that because there just weren't enough people that knew how to do it.
And how did you know how to do it?
I didn't.
Okay.
I did. I was a theater producer from Chicago, right? And to go even farther back, the 1984 Olympic Arts Festival in Los Angeles, a couple of guys were instrumental in putting that together. So they invited dance troupes and theater troupes from all over the world to LA. And Roy Disney was a big part of that. And at that time, Disney animation was at its nadir. Michael Eisner was talking about shutting it down. Roy Disney was the only guy going, "No, this is what Disney's about. You can't do that." And
what were the market forces that were making animation?
I'm not
unsuccessful?
Sure. I'm not sure.
Okay.
I think it was more like it almost.
It just wasn't on trend. Yeah.
The movies weren't good. I think it was just there weren't. There weren't a lot of good movies, and the the Nine Old Men, the famous animators. Those guys were all getting older, and they were trying to pass on the torch and how to do it, and it was all kind of a mess. And but Roy wanted to keep going, and he met these two guys were basically out of the American theater, and he liked them, and he needed some people to try to revive animation. And these guys wanted to do the Great American Musical, but they said, "Well, I guess we could do that in animation." And
so what year was this?
This was 84,
85, okay.
86.
Okay.
And so he brought them in.
I remember that era of Disney too. It was like Oliver and Company. Do you remember that kitten hand drawn?
Yeah.
They were like trying to reinvigorate it, but like they couldn't, just couldn't find that like thing.
So it was Peter Schneider and Tom Schumacher.
Okay.
Who, Tom's runs Disney theatricals until just recently.
Oh my God.
But so those guys began to pull a lot of talent from the American theater. And when I was in Chicago, Peter Schneider was running a theater down the street from me, and I was running another one. And people kept disappearing. We go, where did these folks? And they're doing something at Disney. And I remember my daughters dragging me to Little Mermaid. And I went, "Okay, I'll take you to Little Mermaid." I sat down, and the music started, and I went, "Oh my God, that's Menken and Ashman. Who was smart enough to hire those guys to do this?"
You are blowing my mind right now.
And so that was the beginning, right?
Okay.
That was the revival.
So they were just theater musical
and
guys.
they pulled people from all over the country, and I got sort of sucked into that. And I really didn't have any idea about it. My wife came home from the theater I was running one night. She was in a play there. An agent from LA had seen the play and said afterwards to her, "Listen, if you ever come to Los Angeles, I'll rep you." So she came home from the theater and went, "Guess what, honey? We're moving to LA." Whoa. We got these.
My God.
We got these two. Our daughters were in school, and I was the president of the League of Chicago Theaters. We were ensconced. We'd been doing it for 20 years there.
Oh my!
And she goes, I don't know if that's going to work. And so no, we're going. So she left. I mean, she was like, "I'm going. You guys, So I had the girls in Chicago for about a year. It took me about a year of going. I would go out to LA every few weeks and just interview and talk to anybody who would talk to me. And
interesting. So you didn't immediately go animation. It wasn't like all these guys are going, I'm going to go that way.
No.
Okay.
I was like, I got to find a job. So I was.
And you're a theater guy. You're running a theater company.
Yeah. So at the end of I was 40 years old. I had never been to Los Angeles, and because when you're in the theater, you work 7 days a week.
Sure.
You don't go anywhere.
Totally.
Every night's
That's your
a show.
world.
Yeah.
Yes.
You don't go anywhere. So I would go out to Los Angeles, and what surprised me the most about Los Angeles is people would talk to me. Anybody. I could kind of get an interview or a meeting with almost anybody if I worked at it.
Because they respected, like, the theater game?
I thought it was more about, I think in Los Angeles, nobody knows who you are or who you might become the next day.
Okay, fair.
It's like, sure, I'll talk to that guy. It's like, who knows who he is and what'll happen.
Okay.
And so I think it was a little of that. And it was an interesting experience. And at the end of the year, it took me about a year, I had 2 job offers. One was running the Geffen Playhouse, which was not the Geffen at the time. It was, I can't remember even the name of it. And the other was being the associate producer on The Iron Giant at Warner Brothers, because I had gone, one of my circuitous routes had been to track the people from Chicago who had gone to Disney. And I remember I called up a woman who was Pam Marsden, who was a theater producer in Chicago, and she had been one of the people that disappeared. And I said, "Hey, I'm looking for work." She goes, "Oh, come on over, I'm working on this movie at Disney." And I went over, and it was Dinosaur, and she showed me all around, and it was this enormous, there's 400 people, right. and it was, and she was showing me. And I said, "Pam, what are you doing on this movie?" And she goes, "I'm the producer."
Oh my God.
I went, how, what? And I said, I need a job. Give me a job. And she said, I'm all filled up, but we'll find you something, And so they sent my resume around, and I ended up with this interview at Warner Brothers with Allison Abate, the producer, and Brad Bird, the writer-director. And so it was just a job interview. And, it didn't seem to go particularly well, but it didn't go badly, and they offered me this job. And I remember going back to the Geffen, or I can't remember the name of it, what it used to be called, but anyway, the guy who had given me the job, I said, I have this other offer. And he goes, "What is it?" I said, "Well, it's like working on this animated film." And he looks at me and goes, "Well, if you want to make fucking cartoons." I said, I think I kind of do. The script is good. I like these people.
Yes.
I've never done anything like it. I think it would be great.
Did you and Brad, what did you notice about Brad in that first interview, in that first meeting? Do you remember?
I remember talking about how sometimes you can convey more emotion if you don't see a person. That if you see, he was talking about shooting, but I was thinking the theater, that sometimes somebody looking up stage can sometimes be more powerful than,
I love that.
And I went, and that stuck with me. And I just remember, I had read the script and I thought it was really good. But I was really nervous about taking the job because I had no experience.
Right.
None.
What was the job description, out of curiosity?
It was going to be more of the day-to-day stuff.
Sure.
Allison was going to be the forward-facing, studio-facing producer, and I was going to be sort of tied to the hip with Brad, trying to get the movie made. And so that's what we did. And
making sure the trains run on time, getting things done. Yeah,
and it's funny because animation just takes forever. And Iron Giant was really fast, and we did it in 2 years, but normally they're 4 to 7 or 8 years of production, right? Wow. And it's so easy to get lost in the movie's not coming out for 5 years. But it was, I think, one of the things that a lot of people from the theater excelled in animation is because we had this, you have to make the week, right? The week is important, right? We have to make a certain amount of money. We have to, the show, no matter what, the curtain goes up, right. And that week to week, that was just drilled into me for so long, making the week, and live action's making the day. But,
so what does that mean because I know what that means in typical film production. What does that mean in animation?
It means a certain amount of footage through the pipe.
Okay.
You have to, there's, 8 or 10, 12, depending on the structure, departments, right? There's a story department, an editorial department, an art department, a layout department, animation, effects, lighting, rendering, simulation. There are all these departments, and the movie moves through those departments. It's completely broken up. And shots, individual shots, move through the pipeline at their own speed, right? And it's a big puzzle, but it's a slow-moving puzzle, right? It's very easy to get complacent,
Okay.
Because it's like, so we'll redo that shot, and we'll do,
Oh,
and it's,
my
it's like, I used to say at Pixar, I said, I don't worry about quality at Pixar. I said, there are 499 quality control experts on this movie. There is one get this film made expert.
And that's
that is
you.
Me. Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
And they just want to get their part right. They want to make it perfect and beautiful.
Everybody wants to make the movie in their department.
Yes.
Right? And so it's just this constant shepherding of, one of the first things I learned was find out which shots have been sitting a long time somewhere, and find out which shots are in between departments, because that's where things would go to die.
Oh my God.
And I would get the database people. I said, just give me this report, because I used to do it by hand. I just do printouts and then write down the shots I found. I said, could you get me a report every week that shows me what's in transition and what has been sitting for a long time? And then I would go visit those shots, wherever they were. I'd go visit. I'd say, hey, what's with, E 600 bar 75B? And they'd go, oh my God, let me tell you about that.
John, you're kidding.
No.
So how many shots are in a film?
A couple thousand.
Oh my God.
Depends, Yeah.
That sounds like
Yeah, it's
a nightmare.
It's very similar to effects work.
Yes.
It's that they do the same thing, but they have more finished work.
Yes.
Or our stuff goes from zero to
birth to death.
Yeah.
So I presume the technology and the process was different on the Iron Giant to the Incredibles. So that's how you met Brad.
Yes.
Okay. And then how did you come to Pixar? Did you sort of did you and Brad sort of link up, or how did that happen?
Well, he and Allison did not get along, which always mystified me, because
you get along with both of them.
I do. And they're both wonderful people, very talented. And they it was everybody's first film. Everybody was nervous. Mm-hmm. Brad's a bit of a hothead, he always has been. He got fired at Disney. He was sort of known for that.
Emotional.
Yeah. And Allison, passionate woman. And the two of them we'd always sit outside the office hearing the yelling and going, oh my God. And so he was good. His next movie was going to be The Incredibles. He came into my office. We were still at Warner Brothers. And he said, will you produce it? I said, yeah, absolutely. And we're going to do it hand-drawn. It's going to be like Iron Giant at Warner Brothers.
Oh my God.
At the time, though, Warner Brothers, a lot of these places that had built up these large, very expensive animation departments were in the process of dismantling them because it wasn't happening fast enough for them.
Right.
They'd spent tons of money. They'd listened to people that said, oh, if you want to get into the animation business, you got to have a studio in LA, you got to have a studio in France, you have to have a studio in England, and of course I'm going to have to, as you're running your studio, I'm going to have to be moved. I'm going to have a place in London, in fact, I'm going to have to be managing.
What was the logic of having multiple studios? Why was that?
Being able to find talent. Right? There weren't enough people in the United States.
Hand-drawn, animated. Animators.
There just weren't enough people that knew how to do it.
Oh, my God.
So there was this boom, this incredible boom for, anybody that was, what often happened is that the B and C and D players from Disney were suddenly running these giant, things. So it did not turn out well.
Wow. And so that's 90s, late 90s?
Late 90s.
Okay.
Iron Giant came out in 99.
Okay.
We never thought that they would release the movie, actually, while we were making it.
Why?
They were in the process of shutting down the animation division. I had a good friend who was the head accountant, and all they did was ask him to prepare scenarios for how to close the thing down.
Oh, no.
And I'd say, Dan, why don't we just burn it down? That'll
Oh
work.
my God. That is wild.
Yeah.
So you had the idea for The Incredibles to be a hand-drawn anime, or Brad did be a hand-drawn film. And then what happened?
Then Warner's just got weirder and weirder, and, maybe we'll do it, maybe we won't do it. In the meantime, Steve Jobs is on the phone to Brad going, hey, man, we love Iron Giant. Come to Pixar. We'll make your movie. And I'm going, no, don't do that.
This is wild.
We have to stay at Warner Brothers because we're going to be kings of the world, right? We're going to be we're going to make it here. We'll run the division. We'll make it cool. It'll be great. Because I was certain that if he went to Pixar, that was it. All they wanted was him. Right. What do they want me for? Right? They're nothing but successful with wonderful producers.
And they'd already done Toy Story.
They were crazy successful.
Right.
Toy Story 2 had come out.
Oh my God!
It was like Toy Story 2 drove me crazy because they had this fabulous Disney marketing, and when we were for Iron Giant, there was just nothing.
Right.
And they came out at kind of the same time. I remember actually going to the opening day of Iron Giant here in New York City, and I went to the theater and I bought some tickets and I went in, and there were 3 people in the theater.
No, come on
opening day. And it wasn't like they didn't spend a lot of money. They spent a lot of money.
John.
And I went, and so I spent the rest of my day outside the theater. And whenever anybody would come by and take a look at the poster, I go, it's a great movie. I'm going to buy your tickets.
I have done that, John. For a producer or a filmmaker, it is the most devastating thing where you think you've made this great thing.
Yeah.
And then no one comes and no one knows about it.
Yeah.
And it's so heartbreaking.
Oh, it was just heartbreaking.
Oh, God.
So anyway,
Pixar, Steve Jobs is calling.
Pixar,
yeah.
And I don't do that. And it just got stranger and stranger at Warner's. And I went, they're never going to make it here. You got to go.
Right. They're bullshit.
Would you mention my name?
Yeah. Yeah.
And he went, and he was very successful at bringing not only me, but a number of other people that worked on Iron Giant. And to Pixar's credit, we were the only people to ever come in from the outside to produce there. Everything else was all homegrown. There were nobody,
right?
And they didn't have to do that.
Right.
I mean, they were wildly successful, and they, this is one of Steve's, genius things was that he says when get nervous when you're successful. We gotta do. Don't wait to fail to get nervous. Get nervous now, and let's. These guys made a good movie. Let's bring them in here. They'll do something different. Let's do. And that it was really an amazing opportunity.
Don't you think about running out to doing no daring do? We've been planning this dinner for 2 months.
The public is in danger.
My evening's in danger.
You tell me what my suit is, woman. We are talking about the greater good.
Greater good? I am your wife. I'm the greatest good you are ever gonna get.
Here's how to stay alive longer so you can enjoy Boost Mobile's unlimited plan with a price that never goes up. Do not mistake a wasp nest for a piñata. Stay alive and switch now at Boost Mobile. After 30 gigs, customers may experience slower speeds. Customers will pay $25 a month as long as they remain active on the Boost Mobile Unlimited plan.
This episode is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Fiscally responsible, financial geniuses, monetary magicians. These are things people say about drivers who switch their car insurance to Progressive and save hundreds. Visit Progressive.com to see if you could save. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Potential savings will vary. Not available in all states or situations.
Knock, knock.
Ooh, who's there?
A Boost Mobile expert, here to deliver and set up your all-new iPhone 17 Pro, designed to be the most powerful iPhone ever.
You call that a knock-knock joke?
This isn't a joke. Boost Mobile really sends experts to deliver and set up your phone at home or work.
Okay, well, it's just that when people say knock-knock, there's usually a joke to go with it.
Like I said, this isn't a joke.
So the knock-knock was just you knocking?
Yeah, that's how doors work.
Get the new iPhone 17 Pro delivered and set up by an expert wherever you are. Delivery available for select devices purchased at boostmobile.com. Terms apply.
It's perfectly normal.
Normal? What do you know about normal? What does anyone in this family know about normal?
Now, wait a minute, young lady.
We act normal, Mom. I want to be normal. The only normal one is Jack, and he's not even toilet trained.
Lucky.
So the decision at some point when you're going to Pixar, suddenly you're like, we're not going to be hand-drawn, right?
Yes, that's right. That's what
that's
that
a pivot,
left. Yeah,
right?
Yeah, you had to go.
And so the Pixar technology, what is that called? Like, what's the official animating phrase for a Pixar film?
Well, CG.
CG,
yeah,
okay.
3D,
Okay,
yeah.
and were you and Brad like, this isn't our experience? Like, this is such a different technology and art?
Yeah, and and at that time, too, that's 25 years ago.
Right.
It wasn't figured out. There was still a lot of stuff that CG animation didn't know how to do or know how to do well. And those whole string of Pixar, really successful Pixar movies, Toy Story, Monsters Incorporated, Finding Nemo, Us, Ratatouille, right. That run there, which was kind of
exceptional,
amazing. Yeah,
incredible.
Kind of amazing.
Yeah, golden.
Part of it was also inventing the technology. Didn't know how to do water before Finding Nemo. Didn't know how to do humans before Incredibles.
Really, The Incredibles,
yeah.
Right.
So it was always this race with the movie part of the studio and the technology part of the studio, because it was this, Pixar is this really interesting mix of tech company and movie company. One of the reasons that I was really excited to go there, I never thought that I could, but I was excited when it happened, was that I thought if anybody was going to figure out how to make, market, and distribute movies in the 21st century, it was going to be Steve Jobs. Because he had sort of done it for music.
Yes.
And the movie business had bought itself some time because the pipe wasn't big enough.
Yes.
to get music went out fast, right? Because it was small, little packets. You get it out, and so it got revolutionized right away. But the movie business took a long time. And if had Steve lived, I'm sure that Pixar would have been a much different place than it is now.
Wow.
Yeah, I think we were trying to sort of go out on our own, do our own distribution, not be tied to a big studio. We had a lot of money, we had a lot of cachet. We were the only movie studio in the world with a brand.
100%.
I mean, nobody
like an
goes,
original brand.
Yeah,
like that.
Nobody goes to a Warner Brothers movie.
Yeah,
nobody goes to a Sony movie. People go to Pixar movies.
Yeah,
no matter what they are.
Yeah. Well, it's that combination of equal parts technology and creativity, which you don't really see these days. You've got a lot of these like tech billionaires who are just like all about the tech, but like that Jobs thing where you're really thinking about the aesthetic and the art of it is that's unique, you know. That is so brilliant. Okay, so I am interested to hear how you think Pixar evolved once he passed on, but going back to that moment, I read in an article you were saying that The Incredibles really pushed all the artists because Pixar had never done a full human feature. There was a lot of, in Toy Story, it's like a lot of legs, a lot of like moments, but they're not
really hard to do.
They're really, really hard to do.
Time,
really hard to do. Yeah. So talk to me about like why that was. Why were humans so hard to animate?
It was not so much the animation. I think the animators were fine. The way CG characters work is they're like puppets, right, with a million controls,
right.
So and the animators were great. It was trying to get the look of humans right, the rendering, how they call it subsurface scattering, how the light, when you backlight through somebody's ear, it's kind of red and beautiful, and it's like getting all that stuff. That was really
wind and
plastic is we were really good at plastic, right? You could do toys, but to do skin and hair and one of the
features and anger and emotion and
to get the design right, the uncanny valley, that that all about that, right? It's like as things get close to being photoreal. There is this place where it just looks horrible. And a lot of human animation at that time was right smack dab in the uncanny valley. It's the Polar Express.
Right.
Let's talk,
Right.
the right dead
disastrous,
smack.
right?
It's like,
Not
let's
quite right.
let's get this big expensive machine that sucks the soul out of Tom Hanks's performance. Let's do that.
Unbelievable. I mean, I
Yeah.
remember that movie and people being so put off.
It's because and to try to that was very much on our minds, is like, we cannot do that. So the designs in Incredibles they're not really realistic, but they're very human, and that they're very appealing, but they're not photoreal. They're their own thing, right?
Right.
And that appealing design that is not trying to be realistic, that's the kind of the essence of animation, is that it's like, it's an interpretation of reality.
Right.
It feels real, but it isn't.
So you have this pod of geniuses trying to perfect this thing that you're trying to achieve. How long does that? I mean, because each character requires its own work, right?
Yeah, I mean, they all have to be built. They all have to be, it just takes forever, and which is kind of good. I mean, because we, the important thing about those movies is the time we spend in story, what we call story, right? So we have a brilliant storyboard artists, and for a long time, Pixar, we didn't really have scripts.
Interesting.
Brad could tell you the story more or less, and but he would write a sequence and we'd board it. Write a little, board a little, write a little, board a little, and we would make. Because you can't shoot coverage in animation, right?
Right.
It's too expensive, right?
Right.
You don't get to choose, I like this shot better, I like that shot better. You have to know exactly what you're going to make from the beginning.
Because it's too expensive. To do a shot that you're not going to use.
Yeah, you got, it's like you use every shot, right?
Oh my
because,
God.
And so in order to do that, it forces you to board everything. Right. And, so everything gets boarded, but then we go, and one of the sort of innovations that we brought to Pixar was these elaborate story reels where we would take hand-drawn pencil drawings, run them through After Effects and stuff like that, so we could put camera moves on them, and we could do kind of animation, and we still, on all the movies, we'd spend at least 2 years building out the story reel so that you can watch the movie, essentially. We'd put the camera moves, we score them with fake
Brilliant.
music, we record all the voices with scratch, we make the movie in this black and white version that we watch over and over and over again.
Oh my God. So before you go to any sort of finishing, you have made the movie.
We've made the movie, and we've watched it hundreds of times,
and you've edited that. And
yes, it's all. You can watch the whole Incredibles in the story reel version.
No way.
Yeah, and it's shot for shot, basically.
So when you're building a movie that way, is Brad sort of like, I know I want this scene, I know I want this scene, I know I want this scene, and then you're filling in between, kind of?
Yeah, we look at it, we go, okay, what are we sure we want in the movie? Mm-hmm. These 5, we know we want these 5 scenes.
Okay.
So write those, right?
Okay. Okay.
And then send them to story.
Okay.
They'll board them out, right?
Okay.
And then the board artist will pitch it, and Brad will change it, and then it'll go to editorial, and they'll cut it together, and then it'll come back, and we'll record the scratch, and get the music track in, and get the effects in, and just build it out. And actually, I think it's a great way to make a movie. I mean, scripts are so deceptive.
Because you don't know what's actually going to work.
You don't. It's a visual medium, too. It's like the faster
100.
you can get off the page and into something we can all watch, the better it is. And I think that string of great movies that came out of Pixar, I completely believe it's because of the way it was, because of the storyboard process, the story reel process.
So the story reel process takes how long?
2 years at least.
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
Oh my God. And
Yeah.
you guys are working 5 days a week.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh my God. And how much does that story reel process cost? Do you have any sense of like...
It's not bad, right?
Okay.
I mean, really,
Yeah.
I mean, you can, the thing is we cheat a little too, because, we could just do it with, say, 8 to 10 storyboard artists, an editorial department, and some effects people. You could really do it just with that. But, there's a lot of people at Pixar. I mean, Pixar and most animation studios, they're run like Warner Brothers in the 30s, right? It's like everybody's there.
Right.
Everybody's an employee for years and years and years and years.
Right.
So you got a lot of people sitting around. So you want to put them to work. And we would always have 2 or 3 films going at once. But, it's like, we got this whole art department here. You
got to get them working on something.
They could be working on this, So you could just do that. And do you know Michael Arndt?
Sure.
Michael did a lot of work at Pixar. He's a wonderful, fantastic
amazing.
writer. I know that he loved that process so much that he won't do anything else but. All the movies that he's developing, he does just through story reel process.
Well, for me as a producer, it's like, sure, that would cost some money, but it ultimately would probably save you so much because
better.
You're not shooting the scene that you're not going to use.
It's so much better.
Ugh.
It's so much better. And you can, the equivalent in live action is, let's throw another writer at it, and it's like, no, don't do that. Get it up on the screen and some approximation of what you're doing, and we can all watch it and decide what we need to do at this point.
The technology does exist now, obviously, to like AI these sequences, right?
Yeah, I know. Oh my gosh, yes.
and like we're going into production on a couple films, but like it just never crossed my mind that I could do that for the whole film before we go into production.
The only other, I worked on Tomorrowland. I was an exec producer on that, and I would always push Brad to board more. And he was like, nah, we don't really need to do that. We would board all the effects stuff and get that worked out. Then we were shooting some crazy scene where there were like 8 people and they're all on some platform. And it just got, and they were way up above, they had to take them up in some crazy thing. And it was like, he had really worked out how to shoot it. And it was like, oh man, if we had boarded this, you would know exactly
100%. Yeah.
Let's just do it. I think he was feeling like, well, that's not what we do in live action, And it's
yes,
like,
right. You got to like let it live on the day.
Yeah.
Discover.
And it's like, man, you can always throw it out, but it's
these are pearls, John. These are absolute
and it's
pearls.
so valuable for the rest of the crew, right? They can watch it.
Right.
Watch here's the scene.
Yes. We all know what we're doing.
Yeah.
It's so true. I mean, I think on a movie set, like for a live action film, half the battle is just making sure that your crew knows what's going on in your filmmaker and your DP's head.
Right.
And sometimes things will pivot and everyone's too embarrassed to ask what's going on because we're all just supposed to just be moving forward. And I'm just like, let's just shout it from the rooftops. What is the worst that can happen? Like you say something that's obvious.
Yeah.
And it is really hard to like be brave enough to ask the question or, change the way things have been done forever. But I love what you're saying.
There is this, I think there's sometimes too much honoring of the director. It's like, I think this is not the best idea, but we're just going to do it because Brad's a genius, and he is a genius.
Right.
But not every
that doesn't
moment
mean
of
he
every
can't
day.
Be conversed with.
Yeah, that's right. And it's
yeah.
like, I found that really, because we had sort of a famous within Pixar relationship because we would just fight all the time. I would be in reviews and he would want to change something and everybody's got their head down going, oh yeah, we're not going to make the day. We're not going to make this. And I go, Brad, man, I don't know if we can do this, And that was not done at Pixar, right? It was like directors ran the studio.
Yes.
Everybody just went, okay, whatever. And, he and I had a really good relationship about that.
Where you could question him, you could have the conversation.
And he's a really responsible filmmaker. He wants to get it on the screen. He doesn't want to waste money. He wants.
Love that.
He always wants long, crazy, big movies, and for the same amount of money. I said, then you got to listen to me. We got to work together on this,
Yes, 100%.
And we're not going to go behind closed doors and figure it out. We are going to do it in the room with everybody there. We're just going to hash it out, because the things that I would find always, if you're sitting in a room with 50 people and it's like, oh, this is really uncomfortable, and how are we going to do this?
Yes,
and then,
no one wants the discomfort.
But I'm pushing it, and finally somebody will raise their hand and go, well, I think if Joe could do this and Sarah could do that, then I might be able to do this, and we could maybe make this thing happen by Friday, and it'd be like, yes,
right,
please,
right, right.
If we'd had this fight alone in some office, those guys
have had those brains on it.
Those brains wouldn't have been on the problem.
John, I love this so much. And I think, it's one of the things I've noticed with and it doesn't always happen, but with a lot of great filmmakers, that once they become too protected, their work isn't as strong because no one is pushing back on them. No one is questioning them. And so you suddenly are in this tower, this ivory tower, and you're just in your own head because everyone thinks you're a god. Right. And I just don't believe that's the
and that's path. I think that's the biggest job of a producer is to take that heat. Because why would an animator or a cinematographer or somebody else take that heat?
Right.
What's the point? They're not paid to do that. You're paid to do that. And you have to be willing to be fired.
I mean, it's so true. And I think the problem, and maybe it's not a problem, but an issue in our industry is that we're expendable. Yeah. The filmmaker, the talent is not. In the eyes of our industry, producers are like, well, we can just get someone else.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, sure.
And then maybe the quality of the work goes down, but no one knows why.
Yeah.
And I'm just I think great producers, it is requires a lot of experience. It requires a lot of courage. Yeah. It requires just so many skills that I think most executives who've never been on a set don't fully understand. Yeah. And they think, well, I can do that. I can talk to the filmmaker. I'll get this done. And I'm like, no, it's a good producer is worth their weight in gold.
Yeah.
But it's an industry of constantly shifting executives who don't totally understand that. And so I so appreciate everything you're saying because you were willing to go to the mat.
Yeah. And I used to tell, the managers and the associate producers at Pixar, I said, what do I, they'd ask, I want to become a producer. What do you need to do? I said, well, first of all, when you're in a review or when you're running your department and the director's there, don't sit amongst the natives. You are not a native. You stand up. You stand up at the side of the room or the back. Especially, I would always stand at the back of the room because when I spoke, people had to turn around and look at me.
Love that.
It's stand up. Don't sit.
Yeah.
Because everybody's watching the shot. Well, we could change this. We could change that. I think it should be blue. I think it should be red. It needs to be faster. It needs to be whatever. That's not your job. Your job is that shot's due on Friday. How are you going to do that? And if you sit there, it's very luxurious.
Yes.
And you will go, yeah, I think it should be blue too.
Yeah.
And it's like, no. Stand up.
No, you're the only one who's we have to get this done, people.
Stand up.
100%. You're right. And it's so much easier to just fall in to the malaise and just be like, yeah, it could be red.
It could be red. And it would be beautiful red. Let's try it.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that is so good.
And in animation, it's so much worse because every single thing is designed. If we were going to shoot in here in live action, do you like the chairs? Done, right? In animation, it's okay, we have a room in Rockefeller Center. Should it be carpeted? I don't know. I think it should be hardwood floors. Okay, let's do hardwood floors. How many pieces of furniture? What do they look like? Do we want black mic stands? Do we want? It's Oh my
endless,
God.
endless options.
Endless options.
Oh.
So it's like trying to move that along.
And would those things happen? Would it be like that mic stand's black, I'd like it red?
Yes.
And then you have to go through a whole other process.
And I'd be going like, wait a minute, how important is this mic stand?
Right.
I know it could be red.
Right.
It's like, I mean, we used to call it the spinning pencil, right? That there would be the set department or the props department would be building these things, right? And we'd come into a review and there would be a pencil all by itself spinning in 3D on a huge screen and, asking the director what he thought of the pencil. And it was like, oh, no.
Oh my God.
We cannot do this.
Oh my God.
That pencil is going to be with 6 other pencils in a pencil holder on some guy's desk, which may not ever be in a shot. So so no spinning pencils, right?
Oh my God.
Yeah.
That sounds like a producer's hellhole. I
Yeah.
can't believe that is your job.
Yeah.
Oh my God. That is so awesome.
Yeah.
That is so great.
Oh my God, we're dead! We're dead! We survived, but we're dead!
Stop it! We are not gonna die. Now both of you will get a grip, or so help me, I will ground you for a month. Understand?
Not every sale happens at the register. Before AT&T Business Wireless, checking out customers on our mobile POS systems took too long. Basically a staring contest where everyone loses. It's crazy what people will say during an awkward silence. Now transactions are done before the silence takes hold. That means I can focus on the task at hand and make an extra sale or two. Sometimes I do miss the bonding time. Sometimes.
AT&T Business Wireless. Connecting changes everything.
This episode is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Fiscally responsible, financial geniuses, monetary magicians. These are things people say about drivers who switch their car insurance to Progressive and save hundreds. Because Progressive offers discounts for paying in full, owning a home, and more. Plus, you can count on their great customer service to help you when you need it, so your dollar goes a long way. Visit Progressive.com to see if you could save on car insurance. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Potential savings will vary. Not available in all states or situations.
You want to make me a suit?
You push too hard, darling, but I accept. It will be bold, dramatic, heroic.
Specifically to Pixar and to The Incredibles, it's 2 years that you're like story reeling. You decide what your movie is. Have you cast it yet?
We're talking about it, and mostly we're just recording scratch voices,
Yes, yeah.
Just people around the studio are doing Bob and doing
That's
Helen.
so funny.
And
Yeah.
and a lot of those people stay in the films.
Oh my God, is that right?
Oh yeah, lots of local talent.
I love that. I mean, I will say about like early Disney, there was like it felt like a pool of talent that they would draw from. Like Baloo from Robin Hood was the same as like the bear in the Jungle Book, you know? And I love that guy's voice, and he was so cool. So are there people like that at Pixar that kind of like jump from film to film and their voices are just in it? Okay.
Yeah.
And is that their exclusive job to be voice? Okay.
They're almost always, like Pete Sohn is in a lot of movies. He is a director there.
No way.
Yeah. So,
that's so
and
funny.
all the directors are, Brad plays Edna.
Oh
right? Right? I mean, there's lots. I'm in it all over. My wife's in it. We're all in it. We're all doing little stuff.
What was your voice?
I was like at the beginning. I was like I married him. I was like I was the priest that married him. I was on the police scanner. I did,
oh my God, I love
weird
that.
Stuff,
That is so cool.
Yeah,
I love that, John.
Yeah.
That's like a little bit of your legacy.
Yeah.
Okay, and so then you've got your story reel. Then take me through the process. Like, take me through the...
Yeah, as the story reel's going, the art department is also designing, because those characters have to be designed, the sets have to be designed, all that stuff is going on at the same time.
Okay.
And then you get to a point, we're doing screenings of the story reels every couple of months, 3 months, and for the whole studio, right? So everybody's
on board.
Everybody's watching. All 800 or 900 folks are watching the film. They're all sending notes, but then there's a brain trust that they which was all the other directors and producers and executives would meet after every screening, and we'd have a long note session. And,
how many people is that?
20.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And you take those notes and you go back and you fix it. But at the same time, once you get near the end, when you've got most of the thing boarded, it's like, hey, we do need to start making this movie. So how's that sequence? I would always put up 4 or 5 sequences. This is what I want. This is what I want. Can I take this into production? And out of those brain trust meetings, you'd get approvals to go into production.
On certain shots.
On certain sequences.
Okay.
20, 30, 40 shots.
Okay.
And and you'd be like, yeah, okay. We're off to the races, right?
Cool.
So that sequence goes into the pipe, right? It gets laid out. The characters get put in. Finally gets to animation. But each one of those sequences is, all the shots are broken up too. So it's all going through the pipe, all disassembled.
So can you just lay out, like, for one shot, take me through one shot, the pipeline?
Okay, it starts with the shot is boarded.
Okay.
Right? So it has a little, from the story reel. Then it goes to layout.
Okay.
And they put in the real sets, 3D sets.
Okay, got it.
So the sets
the
are
chairs,
in there. The chairs, the real thing.
Okay.
The stuff that was built in the sets department comes in and layout.
Okay.
And the cameras are worked out exactly, because the cameras are always kind of cheated in our 2D thing.
I see.
Now you got to put the 3D camera in and really make it work.
Okay.
And in their real set.
Okay.
Because you can cheat on the boards, right?
Okay.
But now you got the real set and you got a real camera, so that's what the layout department, they get the shot. And then from layout, it moves to animation. And the animators have the puppets are in there.
Okay.
And they have the real set and they're animating. And if they're really cooking, they can do a few seconds a week.
Oh, my
so it's very slow.
Oh, my God.
And we'll get...
And that's just rough movement, like walking across it's not like...
No, it's everything,
it's
right?
Everything.
They get the track. But by that time, if we have these sequences approved, then we're going to go record the talent. And the track is going to go, it's going to come from the layout department to animation, and we'll feed them the track.
So you've already got the track, and they're matching the animation to the track.
Right. So
okay, got it.
Holly Hunter's,
she's recorded all her stuff,
and not all of it, but we visit with her every few months and spend 4 hours, and depending on what's coming down the pipe in production, we're recording that.
And is she just recording in a room like this? Does she see anything up on
She's
screen?
in a booth. We would not, when she's recording, we would always show her, or any actor, what the sequence is, what we have of it. We might only have it in story reel.
Yeah,
This is what we're doing, and then Brad is in the booth with the talent and working with them.
Okay, got it. Amazing. All right, so now they're animating to the track.
Right.
Then what happens?
Then, after they get it to a certain point, it's approved for... Brad will watch the shot, and it's shot by shot, gets approved. And if it's approved, then it moves to the next station. And that, depending on what's in the shot, that can be simulation, which is these physics-based programs that do sort of automatic animation.
Okay.
Hair, right?
Okay.
Like Violet's hair.
Okay.
Right? That's a complicated program that follows the motion of her head like a shampoo commercial, and the hair reacts. The animators can't do that.
Yes.
You can't do that.
Yeah.
Right?
Okay. Got it.
And so simulation does that. It does oftentimes is water and
got it.
Stuff like that.
Okay.
And then there's an effects department that'll like blow things up and. All this.
The big, like visual effects in
visual effects,
movie.
kind of the same thing.
Okay,
right?
okay, got it.
So they'll do that, and there's a lighting department that actually puts, because we have just sort of work lights for up to that point, and they will come in and put in all the virtual lights, and I mean they really have like Lecos and they have fake digital lights.
Oh my God!
That they light the scene.
Okay.
And, and then the scene gets, once all that stuff is done, then it goes off to what they call the render farm, which is a supercomputer that, is, I think, our back in the day, it was, I think, the second largest computer in California was our render farm. And it was like not used for targeting purposes, and it was, it's just this enormous,
oh my God,
computer room, right?
Yes.
With, refrigeration and,
yes.
and those individual frames go down to the render farm of each shot to be fully rendered in film, resolution.
Yes.
And sometimes that can take weeks for, it's just chugging on the farm, trying to get.
For a sequence.
For a frame, a single frame.
No.
Will take, and so that's a problem, right? A week, it shouldn't take that long, but oftentimes it will take at least days,
Wow.
And when they're really long renders, it's kind of a mystery, right? Why is it taking so long? Because so many people have worked on that frame, done things to it, added, and it's all computational, right? So sometimes it can be as simple as, okay, we built a iPad earpod case. It's all rendered, it's articulated, it works like that, and the character actually used it at one point, but now it's in his pocket. And we don't see it, so we don't need to render it. And so there's a whole group of people called pruners who go through and look for stuff like that.
Oh my God.
Why is this taking so long? It's like, oh my God, it's this thing, and it's
oh
like,
my God.
You got to get rid of that.
So when they say a Pixar movie costs $200+ million, is it really just all the labor that's involved?
Yeah, it's mostly labor.
Yeah.
It's like every movie is mostly labor,
yes.
right? But we have facilities, we have a lot of buildings, we have a lot of computers, we have the gym, we have the swimming pool,
right.
we have the,
right.
It's a very nice campus up there, and that overhead gets allocated to your film based on how much you're using the overhead.
Right.
It would vary film to film about your overhead hit, and I was always arguing. And nobody knew how to deal with overhead, really. For a while, they made it the producer's job. And I go, it's not my job.
This is not my
if it's my job, I'm closing the pool,
Right. Totally. Totally.
I can't be responsible for the overhead.
Yes. Yeah.
And so it became just sort of an allocation.
But that business model makes sense because those movies are so universally beloved and watched. So I understand it, but that just sounds like, oh my God, the years of that many steps.
But one of the great things about it is that, the studio system doesn't exist anymore, but it had a lot going for it. And we had that going for us at Pixar. People worked on multiple films over decades together. Right. Boy, that pays dividends. It isn't a pickup game. There were 5 or 6 directors. There were 5 or 6 producers. There were 6 or 7 production designers. And people worked together over years. That was the thing I liked the most about it.
It really did feel like a golden age.
Yeah.
What do you think has evolved about Pixar? I'm just curious about your opinion. And Pixar still makes extraordinary movies, but what has changed in your opinion?
Earlier on, and I wasn't there at the beginning.
I
was there. I got there in 2000, so it was already a very successful company. But it was a bit of an underdog, and even then, we were kind of betting the studio on every film, and there was a lot of pressure. I remember, Finding Nemo came out and just did amazing business, and we were next, where we were 18 months later. And we were celebrating the opening. Everybody was together in the atrium, and they turned to me and Brad, and they go,
"You're next.
Tag, you're it. Don't fuck it up."
But I just almost started crying. That is just working that hard on innovating and making a film with so much heart. both of your, all your those films of that era, it's just like, and then it works. Then the audience, the market responds.
Yeah,
the audience shows up.
Amazing. And then we would go on these round the world press tours, and you have no sense of it when you're in this little place in Emeryville. You're
right.
And you get out into the world, and your film is everywhere. I mean, the Disney marketing machine is amazing. It doesn't matter where you go.
Right.
You go anywhere in the world, there it is. And it's, man, that's impressive.
This episode is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Fiscally responsible, financial geniuses, monetary magicians. These are things people say about drivers who switch their car insurance to Progressive and save hundreds. Because Progressive offers discounts for paying in full, owning a home, and more. Plus, you can count on their great customer service to help you when you need it, so your dollar goes a long way. Visit Progressive.com to see if you could save on car insurance. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Potential savings will vary. Not available in all states or situations.
Flowers die in 3 days. Matching underwear from MeUndies? That's a gift that lasts. MeUndies creates matching prints for couples and friends. Same adorable designs in different cuts for each of you. All made from their signature ultramodal fabric that feels impossibly soft. With 30 million pairs sold and 90,000 five-star reviews, MeUndies matching prints are the perfect gift. Valentine's Day is February 14th, so don't wait. Get exclusive deals up to 50% off at MeUndies.com/ACAST. Code ACAST. That's MeUndies.com/ACAST. Code ACAST.
Early birds always rise to the occasion for summer vacation planning because early gets you closer to the action. So don't be late. Book your next vacation early on Vrbo and save over $530 on week-long stays. Average savings $550. Select homes only. Minimum 7-day stay required.
How do you think I got rich? I invented weapons, and now I have a weapon that only I can defeat. And when I unleash it, I'll get... You sly dog! You got me monologuing! I can't believe it.
I want to sort of like ask the larger question about The Incredibles and why you think it is like, I mean, my family's been The Incredibles for Halloween. Like it continues to have like such incredible impact, and like people still watch it as their annual film. And what do you think it is about that film and that family?
I think the couple of things are that the powers of each one of the family is character driven, right? Dad is this big kind of clueless guy who's a bull in the china shop. Helen, the mom, is kind of a single mom being pulled in all sorts of different directions. Violet is a 13-year-old, girl who wants nothing more than to disappear and keep people away.
Yeah.
Dash is a 10-year-old Ritalin kid. It's like the powers come organically from who they are in the family.
Yes.
And I think I don't think people actually think about that. And Jack, right, is nothing but potential.
Yes.
Just a baby. You don't know what he's going to do. And I think that's one of the key reasons the film touches people, is because it's you see your role in the family amplified in some way. And the other thing I think is, because this is what we would tell ourselves the whole time, it's like, don't do something fantastic without doing something mundane, and don't do something mundane without then doing something fantastic. Because that knife edge, that's really fun. It's like he's fighting the Omnidroid and he pulls his back out. It's like, don't take yourself too seriously, but go back and forth all the time. And that's fun. And try to make the set pieces character driven, right? My favorite is, Dash running on the water is a great set piece, but it's like, he didn't know he could do that. He's discovering his powers in a set piece, which is crashes and explosions and everything. But it's like you kind of, that's almost secondary. It's like, look, like he's going like, look what I can do, and you're going, look what he can do. Yeah. It's like, He's really brilliant about that. It's that action sequences, and they all come back down to character. You know, and that's
so much.
Yeah.
I mean, when you were first saying the mundane and the fantastic, I thought that was like you were trying to say the theme of the film, but that is like the texture of the narrative. It's but it could be the theme of the film. And for in my everyday life, that's what I try to do. I try to make, stories that are going to touch people, but then I go home and make dinner and my kids don't give a crap. You know what I mean? Right. And it's like that back and forth that creates, I think, great lives.
Yeah.
And so you're so right in that movie. That is what makes it so brilliant. It's that back and forth.
And then the idea of, genius suppressed. People need to do the thing that they're great at. And when that's repressed, or when that's a problem.
Yes.
People need to celebrate their gifts and be able to express them.
John, I can't tell you how inspired I am right now. I want to be crying a little bit. I'm so inspired by that era that you were at Pixar, just hearing about the people that were innovating and being creative and making art for all the right reasons, and hearing about Steve Jobs and him pushing the envelope, and you being brave and not being afraid to go up against your filmmaker. And I just can't tell you. It's been such an honor to talk to you.
Well,
I'm love
just
this.
Lovely. Yeah. Thank you.
You are wonderful. Thank you for coming.
This
was incredible.
Yeah.
Thanks. All right, we did it. I'm really so emotional right now. Vanessa, what was your takeaway from this episode? I mean, making an animated feature is such an endeavor. There are so many arms. I feel like it's 3 times as hard as making a normal live action feature, but in another way, it's way better because you're doing so much editing before you actually execute that you know what you're going to be getting.
Yeah.
In some ways it's harder, in some ways it's easier. What was your feeling?
Yeah, I feel like that inverse process of thinking about a movie in terms of the edit is such an interesting way to think about making a story. And I would love, you kind of left being I'll never make an animated movie. I'm kind of interested. I feel like I read this book and I highly recommend it, honestly. It's called Creativity Inc. It's by Ed Catmull, who was one of the co-founders of Pixar. And it talks about the philosophy and kind of the way that Pixar thinks about stories. And I do think there's something to be learned from this whole process in terms of making narrative, live action feature films. There's just something so interesting that we lose when we're not connected to that final product. And they're just in there watching the characters kind of they're laying out the story as they're telling it. Whereas we're just I hope this works. I hope this looks good on camera,
I know. It's they're so much more sophisticated in their story telling method. And so you're almost more assured that the film will be good. And I think for so long, Pixar really they were the best storytellers that were out there. I mean, you look at that run of movies of that was capped off by The Incredibles, but you just think about Toy Story and all, Monsters Inc. and all these movies that just were so good and appealed to so many different audiences. And so there is an art form and a science to be taken away from them. But, part of me also likes the instinctual process of the auteur filmmaking, and discovering how different filmmakers come to making great films. So I was just sort of fascinated by the whole thing.
It just felt so different, and I'm so glad that we had him on because I didn't know anything about this process, really. I think it really is just completely a foreign thing to producers who work in live action.
I think the thing for me that really got stressful as a producer is that, and I find this in live action filmmaking, I call it live action, it's just the movies we make, but the process of overseeing so many different sort of hubs in animation, it's there's so many different little companies operating and doing their specific job. It's the background, the characters, they're all different areas, and to sort of try to kind of pull that all together feels very, very difficult because like it feels like they could just do it forever and ever and ever and perfect it. So that would feel like really, really difficult to me. And there's a little bit of that in what we do, but that just felt like producing on a whole different level.
Yeah, it almost feels like the producers in animation are also kind of directors. Like they're also so responsible for the look and feel of the movie in a way that we don't have to think about.
Yeah. So love that. Loved John Walker. Hope he'll come back, but just another great episode.
Another great episode. Guys, you should follow us on Instagram. Now that we have this season rolling, we're, putting out clips and having some great content on our Instagram. And subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. Buy some merch at our website, staygoldfeatures.com, and hit the merch tab. And please follow our YouTube, subscribe to it. We have some really great content coming out there as well. And we've really been amping up all of our socials to reach you guys in a different way. So tune in for future episodes.
Don't forget to stay gold.
Stay gold.